everybody. How you doing?
Good morning.
You may have already noticed that we've released Thomas from behind the chains that come with video cameras and laptops and technology. So, welcome, Thomas. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Dan.
Let us know how you think Thomas goes in front of the camera. Otherwise, we'll kick him behind it again every other week from now on. But I do want to say at the start, thank you very much to Thomas James, who you can't see today, who's covering some tech stuff for us, and the whole Payne family for having us at their house. It's a lovely setting, beautiful sunny day for Mother's Day. Outside, I can see hedges and trees, and we even have our own social distancing tree with a spider.
Yeah.
I don't know, you probably won't be able to, I don't think we've got the technology for you guys to see that spider, but there's a sweet like St. Andrew's cross or something spider in there. So I'm excited. Welcome, who's here? Georgie Bankston just jumped in. Conrad's here. Dan and Vaughn, faithful as ever. Sophie, I think you were the first one in, keen as a bean. Good to have you. Good to have you on. Oh, Gracie. Welcome, Gracie. Good to have you here. And Paul and Kel. Good to have you guys here. Can you guys hear? Is that a sound? Yeah, Georgie can hear. Cool. Thank you for taking that for us. And the Rodders, whether it's just Jack or whoever's there, good to have you guys along. Good to have you. Good to have you. And we got Esther and Matt.
Yeah, we've got Esther and Matt here. Hello, Esther. Hello, Matt. Thank you to our YouTube gang.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
Good to have you guys along. If you guys don't know, it is Mother's Day. If you've forgotten that, now is a good time to go and try and remedy your silence to your mother. Unless she's still sleeping. If she's still sleeping, if she's still in bed, let her be and just pretend that that was your gift to her, that you let her sleep until this long. Thomas, good time to cross to you. What did you do for your mother for Mother's Day?
This morning I made my mother breakfast and I gave her a little gift.
Yeah? Did you make it or did you buy it?
I made breakfast. I did it well, yes, and I bought a gift, yes.
Oh, good. Didn't make the gift an Uber breakfast.
No, that would have been kind of cool. But for those of you with younger siblings, if you watch the kids' church video this week, you might see my other attempt at making breakfast for my mum.
This is a harmless promotion from youth group to kids church from a kids church facilitator here. Harmless plug.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I've seen snippets of it and it's actually worth checking out. I don't know if other previous things have been from the kids church, but this morning's was. So yeah, if you've got younger siblings, Gracie, Rodders, everyone else. Who else have we got now? Who's got younger siblings?
Yeah, and
check it out.
Joshua Painter as well, also on our YouTube.
Josh Painter?
Yeah,
Josh. Is it just Josh? We've got Caleb there as well. Let us know. Let us know. Cool. I rang my mother. That's as far as I've gone today. We organised. Once you have your own kids, your mother actually stops caring about you really that much. So today's really more like Mother's Day for Amelia, and it's Grandmother's Day for my mum. So we just organised a whole bunch of letters and pictures from the grandkids and sent them to my mum. And she was stoked. So if you ever feel like you're getting too much attention from your mum, just go and have children. It takes all the attention off you. Great advice on a Sunday morning.
If we want to show them the spider, I've actually got this.
Show them the spider.
Alrighty.
And I'd like a name for our spider.
Just before, sorry, the audio is probably sounding really terrible now because I haven't worked out how to get the audio working with my phone. So sorry for the bad audio, but this here is our spider, which is in the plant.
The social distancing plant.
Yep. If you want to switch back, James, so that there we go. The audio probably sounds better now. But yes. So
Amy Brown. Welcome, Amy.
Good name for our pet spider. Drop it in the chat. We'd love to know.
He will be named by the end of the day. And the other question that I've got for you guys, in line with what we're chatting about today, is how many Christian churches do you think there are in Hervey Bay? Hervey Bay, small seaside city. How many Christian churches are there in Hervey Bay? We will award you by both recognising you and potentially getting you a prize. Paul and Kel have decided to call it James. That'd be very confusing to talk to both James and James. And also awkward if you asked me who my favourite James was. But, yep, how many Christian churches do you think there are in Harvey Bay? Winston.
Winston, that'd be a good name.
That could grow on me. Follow up from last week. So last week, Paul and Kel did a stellar job chatting about the Christian community's response to the LGBTQ community. So I hope that's really helped you guys out in the way that you feel like you should be responding both to God's word and also to them as a community and just the world in general. I also want to know, did anyone get a tattoo this week? Did anyone think the application from last week was like, let's go get a tattoo? If you have, let us know. Siobhan has said 10, Amy Brown has said 15, and the Rodders have said 20. So we're just giving some sweet times fivers.
Over here,
We haven't got the right amount yet, but you are quite close. Amy Brown is very close.
we have a few people, a few numbers as well.
Yep.
Matt Tanius, at first he said 4, but then he changed his answer to more than 6. So using
More than 6.
a greater than sign, I don't know if that's cheating or not.
He's correct, but not not correct enough to get recognition.
Esther's said 5+ as well. So I think our YouTube.
There is more than
people
5.
are pretty good at
Playing it safe.
Yeah, playing it safe.
If you go over, you bust.
We've
But
also
yeah.
got a few names for the spider.
Yep.
Matthew has an excellent name. He's recommending Saint Matthew.
Saint Matthew.
Saint Matthew.
Yep.
And Esther, probably inspired by a movie book, is recommending Charlotte.
Yes. I watched that with the kids the other day.
Oh.
It was one of my favourite books/movies when I was a child. And when you watch it as a 30+-year-old,
Yeah.
it's terrible. It's so bad. It's so bad. But I kept that as a straight face. What used to have such great character development is now just a bunch of random scenes, really. But it's
Yeah.
So yeah, Charlotte, good one. It's an X. So I think like Rogue
Yeah.
or
Well, we've actually got.
The Professor.
Speaking of it being a cross, Josh Painter's actually put an interesting contribution to
Yeah.
this.
It's a cross, so we should call it Siobhan.
He says it's a St. Andrew's cross painter.
Yeah.
So.
St. Andrew's.
St. Andrew's.
Andrew Painter.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Cool. Keep them coming in. We might come in.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Josh is recommending Andrew because it's St. Andrew's cross.
St. Andrew's. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Andrew does go all right.
Mother's Day, not Father's Day. All right.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and we have Caleb. Not Caleb Painter, but Caleb Hill is
Yeah.
here. So cool. Chappie, Paul, and Kel, more than 15 and less than 17. Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Can we actually recognise Paul and Kel though? Like that's a bit anyway.
Josh Painter actually said 16.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Way earlier. All right, so you got 16. Cool. It is. As far as that's my calculations and my research, I said 16, and that's not including riverheads or Burham heads. So depending on how far you consider Harvey Bay stretching, but if you include the Riverheads Church and Homestead, we take that to 18. But I believe there's 16, which I think is crazy. 16 in Harvey Bay. So yeah, and we have Bobby is another name suggestion. So yeah. Bobby. Not much of a Bobby, I don't think. But, yeah. Anyway, let us know, like I said, if you got a tattoo this week. That would be really good. So today we're going to delve into 2 questions. 2 questions that discuss faith and sort of what we believe and why we believe it. And so we've thrown them together even though they're quite different questions. So the 2 questions we're going to cover this week are, why there's so many variations of faith? I think that one might have came from Dan, I can't remember. And then after we cover that one, we're going to get into, does all religion link up to God? And that could be going a few different ways. So we're going to try briefly touch on a few things there. But first off, why there's so many variations of faith? And to start this off, I've messaged a whole bunch of friends this week. And so has Thomas messaged a couple of his friends. And we've just got them to send in a really simple video. And so we've mashed them all together. And just to hopefully show something to you guys. So, have we got that ready to roll? Yeah. Hi, my name's Dan. I go to Harvey Bay Baptist Church, and I love Jesus.
G'day, this is John. I go to Bayside Christian Church, and I love Jesus.
Hi, my name is Annalie, and this is Nyla. We go to the Cochrane Alliance Church here in Canada, and we love Jesus.
Hi, I'm Hayley, and I actually attend a church of a different denomination every week, and my home church is Gateway Baptist, and I love Jesus.
Hi, I'm Alice, and I'm a team partner with AIM Church, that's Australian Indigenous Ministries, and I love Jesus.
G'day, my name's Daniel. I go to the Life Point Baptist Church in the Sunshine Coast, and I love Jesus.
G'day, my name's Josh. I go to Hume Ridge Church of Christ in Toowoomba, and I love Jesus.
Kia ora, my name's Ben. I go to the Salvation Army, and I love Jesus.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I go to Bayside Christian Church, and I love Jesus.
Hey, I'm Zane. I go to Overflow Church in Madawi, New South Wales, and I love Jesus.
Hey, my name's Kim. I go to a church called Glorify here in the Adelaide Hills, and I absolutely love Jesus.
Hi, my name is Ingeborg. I go to St James Lutheran Church in Hervey Bay, Queensland, and I love Jesus.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I go to Northmead Anglican Church, and I love Jesus.
Hi, my name is Gilbert.
And I go to
Northmead Anglican.
Yeah.
And I love Jesus.
G'day, I'm Shannon. I attend New Life Presbyterian Church, and I love Jesus and the sprinkling of babies.
Hey, my name's Ben. I go to City Coast Church in Bundaberg, and I love Jesus.
Hey guys, my name's Dane. I go to Hoxton Park Anglican Church, and I love Jesus.
Hello, my name is Jondre. I'm from Hallett Cove Christian Reformed Church, Adelaide, South Australia, and I love Jesus.
Hi, I'm Beth. I go to the Harvey Bay Church of Christ in the mornings, and then I go to the Harvey Bay Baptist Church in the evenings, and I really love Jesus.
Hello, I'm Jamie. I go to Sovereign Grace Parramatta Church Plant, and I love Jesus.
Well.
There you go. Did that partly to prove that I have friends, and partly to prove that they are people. We all go to different churches. We all love Jesus. And there's a couple that more rolled in last night and this morning that we haven't been able to get in there from another COC church, another Catholic church, different people who, all of those people there have either made a difference, have made an impact on Thomas's life or on my life. Significant impacts. And not just because they're funny or cool people or whatever, but that, like, every single person in that video has made an impact on me spiritually in my relationship with Jesus. And I'd say that I'm a better person. I'm a better follower of Jesus. I understand Jesus better. I love him more because of each of those people in that video. Anything you want to add to that, Thomas, from your...
It's good. Not really.
Cool.
I think you pretty much summarised it. That's good.
Cool. So we've got Johnny and Jeff or Jeffrey as also suggestions for the spider.
Yep. Yeah, we got one from Maddie. X Factor.
X Factor.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm still not sold on anything yet. I think Winston's actually my front leader, like my front runner at the moment. But see what happens. Jeremy's jumped on. Welcome, Jeremy. And that's a good time before we delve into some stuff about denominations and different types of churches and faiths to plug that. I hope, has anyone listened to the playlist that we put up a little while ago on Spotify, about 2 weeks ago? This week there'll be another one going up, made by our dear brother Jeremy. And the other one was called Heavy-ish. This one will be called Heavy. And just as there's different denominations and different people relate with the Bible differently and Jesus differently, different people relate with Christian music differently. And we're going to put up a playlist that if you like quite heavy music, then Jeremy is your man, and he's put together a playlist for you guys. So look out for that. Welcome, Jeremy. Don't have Spotify. Yeah, if you don't have Spotify, that's cool. We obviously realise this is a niche market that we're not doing for everyone, Caleb, but yeah, if you do have Spotify, it's for you guys. Cool. So first thing I'm going to do before we delve into a bit of denominations is one, I wonder how many of you guys even know how many denominations there are in Australia and stuff. It's pretty crazy. When you think of how many different types of churches there are, I wonder how many come to your mind. For some of you, there might be like 20 to 50 different sort of types of churches. Some of you might think, oh, there's only like 2 or 3 types of churches. And so today we might expand that or simplify it. We'll hopefully see. But I've done a really brief history. So Thomas, can you pull up my highly technological piece of equipment? No, they're the other two. Where's it? I gave you the history one first. That one. Okay. Some random history. So if we can just put the camera on that baby. So there you'll see some random dates that have been pretty important. Now I didn't have like 33 AD on there, but 33 AD is basically when I guess like the church started. Okay, we call it like the day of Pentecost, when Jesus rose from the dead, Holy Spirit came, and the early church began. And then we have the book of Acts. And then we jump forward like 1,000 years. Okay, 1,000 years. And from there we have a moment in history which we call the Great Schism, like a pretty significant split. And from there is where we got we call the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. And the Orthodox Church is basically the church that's in sort of the part of the world that we call the East, and the Catholic Church became the church that we sort of know in the West. Okay? And that's basically the first little split that we had in a bit of Christian history, the Catholic and the Orthodox. Cruise on another 500 years or so, and we get to 1517 AD, which is a really significant date in Christian history, and that's where a guy called Martin Luther protested. That's where the word Protestant comes from. Protested against some things that were happening in the church at that time, which was pretty much all known as the Catholic Church back then. And so he protested against some stuff that was going on there and started what's called the Protestant movement or the Protestant Reformation. And so he started the Lutheran Church, funny enough, Martin Luther, and the Lutheran Church. And around that time, heaps of other stuff happened. So Lutheranism started in Germany. We had things like the Reformed Christianity coming out of Switzerland by a guy called John Calvin. And that sort of led to the Baptists. So those of us who go to the Baptist church, that sort of is where we sort of came out of. Not Martin Luther King, just Martin Luther. Martin Luther King was a great dude in America, but no, just Martin Luther. Thanks, Caleb. Same time, a guy called John Knox started the Presbyterian movement in Scotland. King Henry VIII started Anglicanism in England, which is called the Episcopalian Church in the USA for Gracie and other people who might have heard of the Episcopalian Church. And Methodism was started by John Wesley. And around this time, just a lot of there was a lot of protest against the way that the church was running, and so a whole bunch of new sort of churches and movements sort of started up around the world at around this time, around that sort of 1517 to 1540 mark. Jump forward a bit, and we go to 1865 when Booth started the Salvos, again because there was a severe lacking in parts of the church and what they were doing, and so he felt a need to start up the Salvation Army. Jump forward a little bit again to 1906, a significant date in Christian history called the Azusa Street Revival, and that was one of the significant things that led to the Pentecostal movement in our churches today. So all the Pentecostal and charismatic churches that we have around Australia, the Australian Christian churches and AOGs, that's what it was, come from sort of that movement. So they've only been around for about 100 years or so. And then I've just got randomly the Uniting Church, some as early as recent as 1970. And then today there is about 13,000 churches in Australia. 13,000. That's not 13,000 types. That's 13,000 churches in total. So Harvey Bay contributes about 16 of those. So that's a brief history. Just to give you guys a bit of an idea that they haven't always existed. In fact, a lot of our denominations have only really come out in the last decade or 50 years, or certainly the last 100 years, is when a lot of these churches that when you drive around and see different names for different churches, that's where they come from. And so sometimes it's just a matter of location and time as to when these things have come about. Any questions about that or whatever, flick us through. Can we get our next one, Thomas? This is probably the sort of important stuff, I guess. I just felt it pretty important to give you guys a bit of history, but this is the what varies. So in churches, what varies? Why do we have Baptists and Anglicans and Lutherans and Pentecostals and what's the difference? What varies? Sometimes it's as simple as things like the organisation and the authority. So basically how a church is run, who's in charge, how many people are in charge. Okay? Sacraments is a word that basically sort of means like religious traditions, or religious sort of ceremonies and stuff. For most Christian churches, that's just the Lord's Supper or communion when we remember Jesus' death, and also baptism. So sometimes we disagree on how that's meant to happen. Maybe you guys have visited churches where they do it differently. You know, there's the people who have the break stuff off the bread. There's the people who give you the little piece of wafer. There's the grape juice. There's the visit the Anglicans on Good Friday and accidentally drink port when you're an 18-year-old Dan and nearly spit it out because you were expecting grape juice.
Done that before.
Thomas has done that before.
Yeah.
You go forward and you kneel for that. And it's totally different. And so we do that one differently. Some people do it every week. Other people do it like once a month. There's all different things. So.
Did you drink out of a small cup or a big cup, expecting grape juice and getting wine?
No, I had the small cup.
Yeah,
but
same.
often they do pass the big cup, and then I'm glad I didn't sort of heave back into it or something like that. That would be really awkward.
Yeah. That'd be gross.
It'd be really gross. So,
yeah.
What else varies? Public worship style, and this is I'm going to talk about this a little bit later soon. Actually, we'll talk about it now, but this is pretty big for our generation, I think. I don't think this was as big for previous generations, and a lot of our churches have started over more stuff that we'll talk about next. But for our generation, this is pretty big, as to how comfortable we feel in a church and how they go about their business, and just the space and the culture that a church promotes is pretty big for our generation. And you'll know that. If you were to walk into certain churches, you would feel really homely and comfortable if you like formalities in a formal church, or if you really like low-key stuff and you walk into like a home church, you'd feel really at home there. And that's a pretty big thing for our generation. And then obviously there's biblical interpretation. So how we view God, like our theology, or just things about, these are some of the stuff that particularly split up churches, or not split up churches, but churches sort of disagree on, and sometimes often just agree to disagree on. And that's important to know. Not just because you have a different sign out the front of your church doesn't mean we all don't get along. This is often stuff we agree to disagree on, and so we meet in different places and do things in different ways. Baptism, roles of men and women, that's not like body roles. That's like, the functions they perform in a church. Often that's associated with marriage. So our views on marriage are pretty big. Spiritual gifts, the end times, so how Jesus is going to return, what's that going to look like, when. Predestination, so that's the God chooses versus we choose sort of debate and how that plays out. And finally, how weak should cordial be made? This is probably the most important thing that divides lots of Christians, is that we know Christians must make weak cordial. It has to be weak. It usually has to be like Aldi fruit cup. And it says 1 to 4 on the bottle, but we're Christians, so we usually go about 1 to 8, or usually, because we like to tithe, maybe 1 in 10. Because we can't give the kids too much sugar, we can't make them hyper, we don't want them to enjoy it, so we must make the weakest fruit cup cordial ever. I believe there is still a Facebook page called Christians Make Weak Cordial. It's probably the most fundamentally important Christian site in the world.
It's funny, because I used to go to the Sunday school at one of our local churches in Hervey Bay, St. John's, for at least 3 years.
Yep.
And they used to give us cordial afterwards.
Was it weak?
It was so strong.
Oh, really?
It was
Ooh.
Look.
They're rebelling. Protesters.
There were probably less kids to complain, but I would always have to water it down. I'd go to the cordial station, which was supposed to already be diluted, and get it. And then I'd go to the water station and just so you could get it down. Yeah.
So good.
So if you want strong cordial, there's a plug.
Anglicans.
Yeah.
Anglicans for strong cordial. There we go. You've heard it first here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Baptists aren't really known for their strong drinks. And just to clarify, most of the churches that we talk about in that 16 churches that are in Hervey Bay and in Christian churches, most of them would fall into 3 categories. So either Catholic, Protestant, or Pentecostal. Okay, so there's sort of 3 categories in there. And if you want to know more about that, we can discuss that. But most of those churches fall into those 3 categories. And we're all Christians. We all get along, and we disagree about things, but we agree to disagree. Is really important, and much to flow on from what we discussed last week in regards to how the church should engage with the LGBTQ community. the way the church needs to engage with the church and the rest of the church community has often been done really wrong and needs to be done better. And I think Harvey Bay as a city actually does this quite phenomenally well compared to other places I've been in.
Yeah.
So, cool. I'd just like to say too that at Harvey Bay Baptist Church we would never make strong cordial. We would never make it to the point where people would vomit at youth group. Disclaimer, put it out there. Haley. I think Haley Burton isn't on this morning, but she'd back me up. Cool. So that's some of the stuff that we do disagree on. Okay, we can expound on all those or whatever, but if you want to ask us, let us know if you want us to expound on any of those things. But that's some of the stuff that we do disagree on, and like I said, a lot of time agree to disagree on, because let me just read this actually now, Thomas. We'll go to this first. This is a little article by a chick called Johanna Reardon, and it's called "Why Are There Different Denominations?" And I just want to read 2 sentences from it, from Johanna Reardon. She just says that varied we are. This is cut in halfway through a sentence, so sounds a bit like Yoda, but bear with me. Varied we are in the ways we connect with God. For example, some spend a great deal of time in contemplation, while others are energized in their relationship with God by taking stands on social activism. Right? I think that's really important for our generation. That in previous times, I think what we believed about certain aspects of the Bible was what really maybe divided Christians as to why we met in different church buildings. But I feel like today it's a lot about our relationship with God. Now, people really like to have a hyped up relationship with God when they're in a public worship setting, right? And so they might go to a church that offers that and provides that. Some people really like quiet reflection and contemplation, and so they'll go to a church that offers and provides that. And sometimes it's, imagine for you guys as teenagers, a lot of it is just to do with family history or heritage too. Your parents go there. So it'd be fun to even chat to your parents. If your parents are Christians, ask them why they go to a certain church. I know for me, I've attended different churches growing up, and some of them Baptist, some of them not Baptist, but I'm upset at Baptist church now as my home church. And I attend our church mostly because when I rocked up here, this is where Amelia went. And then I found that it allowed me a place to serve, and to serve with teenagers, which is, I believe, God's calling on my life at this stage. And so for me, I agree with everything that the Harvey Bay Baptist Church teaches. If I didn't, I'd struggle to attend there. I probably would leave. But for me, it's about having a place to serve. And that's a big factor for me. And then next little sentence, it says, a one-size-fits-all approach to Christianity can never work. Okay? Cannot. So we have different denominations because we are all very different people. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for me. And that's what I loved about Hayley Westendorp's contribution to that video before. If you guys know Hayley Westendorp, she used to come to our youth group in our church. She's a Beach Bash legend, and she goes to a different denomination every single week. And when I messaged her about that, she says that she's finding it really helpful for her relationship with Jesus to see how different people connect with him in a public worship setting. And so I think that's really epic. I know Thomas over here is a big advocate for that too. Was it Easter or something you were going to try to get to 4 or 5 different denomination churches?
Oh, I had a whole line. No, I normally say that's a good thing, but we're supposed to be socially distancing, so let's skip that.
Right. You follow social distancing. Good. Apparently Lachlan is social distancing himself quite well with his dad at the moment.
We've got our social distancing plan. So.
That's right. Brent, welcome Brent. Good to have you here. Tina, good to have you jumping on board. Chappy Paul, yeah, I agree. Chappy Paul wrote this on Insta, or Kel, or Evie. I sometimes wonder if there is different churches for different temperaments, similar to different gospels. Yeah, I like that. It's good. So what doesn't vary? So there's all these variations in sort of what we believe or how we go about what we believe. What doesn't vary? So if we go to my third and final high technological slide, what mustn't vary? In order for a church to say they are a Christian church, I would say these things, basically just the top one. Just the top one mustn't vary, really, is that we're saved by Jesus. We are saved by God's gift of grace through faith by the work that Jesus did. Jesus is the difference. Jesus makes all the difference. It is all about Jesus and the work that God has done through him and the work that the Holy Spirit continues to do through Jesus today. That's the key. If people add things to Jesus, if they say, okay, you're saved by Jesus and being a good person, you know, then I'd say that they're different. They're saying something different to what a Christian church should be saying. And they're saying that we're saved by, you don't need Jesus, you can do it another way. Or, you know, Jesus is one way, but there's another way. Then I'd say that they don't fall into the realm of Christian churches. Okay? Christian churches, hence the word Christ at the start of Christian, are all about Jesus Christ, the King. And there's two cool things there, the Nicene Creed and the Apostles' Creed. That's roughly when they were written in the red there. So these things have been around for a long time, a very long time. And they have really basic outlines as to what we believe as Christians. This is not a creed, but there is a song called The Creed, or This I Believe, by Hillsong Worship. It is my favourite Hillsong song. It is basically the centre of those creeds that we can sing. We can sing it together. And what I like about that is the backstory to that song is a dude called John Dixon who helps run the Centre for Public Christianity and writes a whole bunch of books, great books for teenagers that we have plugged before and stuff. He challenged Hillsong to write a song that every church could sing. You know, every church could sing and would love singing, and so they did. And they wrote this song based off the creed, basically that every single Christian can sing this song with gusto. I really like singing this song with gusto, much to the lack of delight of other people in a congregation sometimes. But sing this song with that song with gusto because it outlines what we believe. So it's cool. Cutting back to some comments. So Jack visited the Bribey Island church service online last week. Yes, Pastor Ray, good bloke. I was going to message him to get him to do a video for us, but he goes to a Baptist church down there anyway. So I was like, want some variety.
Yeah, true.
But no, Pastor Ray's a good bloke. So if you're ever down Bribey Island way, or if you're bored after this, check out Bribey Island Baptist.
True.
They're good people, and not just because they're Baptists. I feel like I've got to disclaim that now. So that's what doesn't vary in churches, is that it's got to be about Jesus. Got to keep that at the core. And there's some people who sometimes fall in the Christian bubble, but I would say have either added to Jesus or taken away from Jesus enough that I would say they don't. And these things we've got to be careful of as Christians. We do have to be careful that we don't just believe everything that comes to us. In the book of Acts, Paul really praises the Berean church because when he says something, they don't just go, oh yeah, okay, cool. They actually go and check it out in the Bible for themselves. And you guys should be doing that with, for your lives, and even just for stuff that me, Paul and Chappie and Kel and Paul and Chappie. Check it out. Check it out in the Bible for yourself. Don't just believe it. Some people think that J-dubs or people who meet at Kingdom Hall, so I'd say we differ on too many things to say that I'd link them in with us in that stuff. And same with Mormons, or the churches that are called the Latter-day Saints. So there's just too many differences between us to not say that I'd fit them into the Christian bubble. And there's lots of others too that do it. But what's also kind of crazy is that there's people who can attend really good Bible teaching, Jesus-loving churches, and yet they can, just because you go into that church or walk through that church's doors doesn't mean that we're actually living it out. And I think that's really important, is that before we start judging other people as to what do they believe or how do they practice or how do they worship, what's really important is that we make sure we know what we believe and why we believe it, and we make sure that we're actually practicing what we say we believe and what we profess to believe. It's one of my favourite verses, 1 John 2:6. Some Bible verses to go with sort of this stuff is, I won't read them all, but Ephesians 2:8 and 9 is a great verse, just outlining that we are saved by grace, saved by Jesus. And 1 Timothy 2:5, which we'll talk about a little bit soon too. But I'll read for you Romans 3:23 and 24. They say this. These are I reckon some of the best, some of my favourite verses for just outlining what we believe as Christians, no matter what denomination you go to. It says this, Romans 3:23 and 24. For everyone has sinned, and we fall short of God's glorious standard. Yet God, in his grace, freely makes us right in his sight. And he did this through Christ Jesus when he freed us from the penalty of our sins, by his death and his resurrection. So, Romans 3:23 and 24. Mad outliners for what we as Christians believe. And if you were to chat to someone and to find out, I guess, does this person believe what the Bible says? Do they have the same view of Jesus as me, or same view of Jesus as Dan, or whatever? If someone wanted to add or take away from those verses, then we'd obviously have some discussions about what we believe and how we believe it and why we believe it, and whether we believe the same thing or not. Cool. Any questions? Sophie's going for a beach walk and going to see her nan. That is a great Mother's Day. Caleb is cooking and cleaning for his mother. You do that every day, though, don't you, Caleb?
Actually got a DM from Siobhan. She reckons it's Winston. And I can actually see it.
Oh, he's moving.
It's weaving a web. It's adding to his web.
Yes. Winston, the weaving spider.
Yeah.
He is. He's making additions. I don't see that very often. That's cool. Close to that. Does it help if I put the paper there or not?
I think it does.
Let's check that out. I don't know. Oh, scared him. Sorry.
Oh no, he stopped.
He was doing some pretty cool stuff.
Oh well.
I'll tell you what, Thomas should never put distractions such as Winston the spider between us for youth church, eh? Cool. Let us know what you think about that. So how were the JWs formed? Oh, didn't do enough research on that, Caleb. It's a guy called Jason Smith or something. Oh, that's Mormons, is it? Yeah. Okay, that's Mormons. See, that's why I didn't do enough research.
So with Mormons, Joseph Smith, my understanding, as explained to me by a Mormon missionary. So this is what they believe. I'm not saying this is true. But what they believe is that the guy was like upset with the amount of denominations there were, and thought that there could only be one truth. So he created his own church. Well, he was given a revelation, supposedly. And it's funny now because there's like for a smaller church they like have 5 or 6 or more denominations, all with big splits inside the Mormon church.
Yeah.
So kind of didn't really work out, but
no, that's often the best way to decide there's too many denominations is to start another one. Yeah. It's cool. It's cool. If you do want to know anything specific about any denominations or whatever, feel free to message us. We can do some research or whatever. Or best thing to do is, maybe your parents or maybe you or whatever, even maybe know someone who goes to that. Go straight to the source. Ask people, why do you attend that church or whatever else. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. Thomas and I have both been a part of a mission agency called Teen Missions, which is called non-denominational, which now people call like non-denom. But it's a place where basically Christians meet together on the same, level of we love Jesus and we want to tell people about him and do something about it. And so we actually, if you're a leader on that, which I've led 2 teams on that, you actually make a vow, make a sort of little promise at the start of it, that you're not going to discuss things that divide. We've got so many things that unite us as Christians, and yet sometimes we focus on these few little things that we disagree on. So it's really nice sometimes to be able to focus on these things. But I think it's also important for you guys that as you grow up in your own faith, that you continue to actually chew it out. Don't just think, this is something that divides Christians, so I don't really want to go there because I'm non-confrontational. And I'm a non-confrontational person, but it's really good to work out, okay, what does the Bible say? What do I think the Bible's saying about this? Why is this important? And what do I believe? And then know that. Know why you believe what you believe. And there's things in those things that I've mentioned before that divides churches that I haven't looked a great deal into. I'm no ends time expert or whatever. That's why Paul and Kel love Revelation and stuff. There's so much stuff to chew out there, and there's so much stuff that isn't clear cut like other parts of the Bible. And so we make up our, people have different interpretations and we disagree. And like I said, important I think is to agree to disagree and have those good conversations more than it is to have even the right opinion, is to be able to delve into yourself and have those discussions. Cool. That being said, any thoughts on that? Let us know. If you've ever visited a different denomination church and found it really different, like confrontingly different, just because of the way they did something, let us feel free to flick us a little story about. You don't have to even name the denomination. Just tell us what you found really different about churches. I remember as a teenager, we visited a few different churches when I was growing up and stuff, but I remember the first time I visited a church where there was heaps of hand raising, and that just threw me. I was like, what is everyone doing? I don't understand this. And it took some took some processing for me because I just something I hadn't seen before. We talked about the port and stuff before at Anglican churches. I visited I had a really good friend who went to a C3 church where they promote speaking in tongues. That was, for me, was a really different thing to be a part of at that church service and experience that. And then had some really good chats with her and the church and stuff afterwards about that. Really helped me go into the Bible. So often when you feel uncomfortable at something or you see something new, that's what's really cool, is it pushes you to the Bible to be like, oh, what does the Bible say about this, or what do other people I know say about this? Yeah, let us know if you've had any funny stories from visiting other churches. Yeah, cool. Christians believe lots of different things, so I've got these books to plug quickly. This one is called Concise Theology by J.I. Packer. It's a really brief outline of a whole bunch of stuff that Christians believe. Theology means basically what we believe about God, so it's really concise, it's really good. The guy who gave this to me was a guy called Frank. He's an awesome guy, love Jesus, love theology, and when he gave it to me, he told me, Dan, delve into this, read this, love it, but don't pay attention to anything in the baptism section. Because Frank disagreed with J.I. Packer's view on baptism. And so it's really fun to, like, he loves the book, it's one of his favourite books, and yet still he doesn't agree with everything in there personally with his Bible reading. The other one is not so small. This is called Systematic Theology by a guy called Wayne Grudem. Not quite a little read. And that's how much people can write about God and the Bible and interpretations of it and stuff. And that's not all the stuff that is, that's just, God's big. And the Bible's got some epic stuff in it. And so there's a lot of stuff to be discussed.
So we've got some comments.
Comments?
Yep. So Jeremy has an interesting discussion question. He said, should we learn from how radical JW's evangelical agenda is, and should we be as active in evangelizing as JW?
It is a good thought. And again, I think there's a fair bit of personal stuff that comes into that.
Yep.
I remember when I came back from a mission trip with my little sister, and she just had a mad encounter with God personally, and she saw some JWs who are very faithful in their evangelism and the way they go about it. She saw them walking around in their ties and slacks and stuff, and she said, look, if they can do it and they don't even have the full truth, how come we can't do it? And I thought that was a great comment from a 15, 16-year-old. Probably not the most PC comment, but yeah, so I think that's, I think why you do it is a big factor too. So obviously, I think how you go about evangelism and why you go about it has a lot to do with your personality and also your take on God and stuff. Often we are not bold enough, or we are too chicken. But at the same time, I think also if you only do it because maybe your church tells you to do it, and you only do it in the way that your church tells you you have to do it, I might also question the heart behind it. And if you feel like you're only ever doing it, if you ever feel like you're only ever doing anything, reading your Bible, telling other people about Jesus, listening to Instagram on a Sunday morning, if you're only doing that because you feel like you have to, or you're trying to get brownie points with God, any of that sort of stuff, if ever that was the reason, then there's questions to be asked too. So that's some little comments I guess I got for you there, Jeremy, but it's a good question, man. One that we can wrestle out personally. And I just thought I'd have a question too. If you weren't born into the Harvey Bay Baptist Church, I'd love to know what churches maybe you've been a part of in your past life. So, I mean, Gracie obviously has come from the US, and a lot of other people have moved to Harvey Bay and stuff. So, Jeremy come from PNG and all that sort of stuff. So, I'd love to know if you've been a part of other churches. So, I've attended a Bible church, and I've attended an evangelical church, and I've attended, been a part of Anglican ministries. Let us know if you've been a part of other stuff. Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to move on to does all religion link up to God? Okay, and I don't have that much to say on this one, to be honest, but it's pretty brief. Does all religion link up to God? Okay, so I've got 3 little comments to make on this, and I've got a little video to show you guys too, which we're going to say after my second comment. But does all religion link up to God? Depending on who asked this question and stuff, it depends a little bit on exactly what's meant by the question. Okay? Gracie didn't go to a Baptist church. Cool. Which means Matt probably currently works for and attends and works with 2 different denominations. Awesome. So good. Does all religion link up to... So I've divided this. Does all religion link up to a God? Just, in the general spectrum of a God. And my answer is no. I'm no expert on a lot of things in Christianity. I'm definitely no expert on any other religion. But I have done a little bit of research. I got fairly interested in Buddhism at one stage in my life, just in regards to what they thought in different things. And Buddhism doesn't ultimately believe in a God or a deity. So that's one of the major religions in the world. And so I would say that no, not all religion does link up to God, because Buddhism, as one example, doesn't even link up to a God. They link up to nirvana and enlightenment, and they have very much similar things maybe to other religions in some aspects, but it doesn't link up to a God. So if it's to link up to a God, then I think the answer is no, because any Buddhist would tell you that that's not how they go about their life and their religion. Does all religion link up to the God? So does all religion link up to the God of the Bible? I guess as Christians is the one that we associate with. That's our God. And again, I'd say the answer is no. It's really clear throughout the Bible that that God is a God of relationship, and God is a jealous God, and our relationship with God is even likened to marriage, and marriage is made to be a metaphor of our relationship with God. And there's an exclusiveness to that, a good exclusiveness to that relationship that is meant to exist. And so you can't just pick and choose any way to go about a relationship with God when God has outlined his means of relating with him. 1 Timothy 2:5 tells us that there is one mediator between God and man, Jesus Christ. One mediator. So only one person who can create and establish and continue this relationship between God and man, and that happens through Jesus. And so I would say that no, not every religion links up to God, because God, the God of the Bible, has told us the means in which to relate with him. In fact, he has created it. He himself reached out to start that relationship. And that's what's epic about the God of the Bible, the Christian God. And questions for me, if people hold this position, which a lot of people do, which we'll discuss briefly soon, but my big question is if there was more than one way to get to God, why would Jesus die? Jesus even wrestles with God in prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane in Matthew 26 verse 39. He prays basically, God, if there's another way, let's do it that way. Let's not do it the way of the cross. And I love that honesty about Jesus there. But Jesus does go through with it. It's the only way to make a relationship with God for us. And that's epic that Jesus chooses to do that and wants to do that for us. And it's epic that God lays that in place. A few comments about this. Atheists don't have a God. That's true. But I don't know if atheists also classify themselves as a religion. An atheist is a person who does not believe in God. Okay. So that's right. So
we've got some good stuff from the YouTube here
as
well. Maddie telling us that has been to what's it called in Egypt? The Catholic Orthodox in Egypt.
Yeah, cool.
Says that they have lots of photos of stories and apostles. And he also, in response to Jeremy's point, he says, could you imagine how many more people we could reach?
If we all actually evangelize like a data does. Yeah. It is a good thought to have. All right, I got a little video to show you guys about that I found last night, and we have permission to use from the Fellowship of Christian Leaders. This is a guy called Michael Otts or something, I believe, it's just a short little video basically discussing some of the stuff we're discussing now. So check it out, and then we'll go from there.
I think a lot of people have this assumption that all religions are basically the same, or all religions will basically achieve the same thing, not because they've studied religions to any great degree, but actually because it's a popular idea. And so you have to firstly ask the question, what's the reason for that belief? Have you got evidence to think that that's actually true, or is it just what you want to be true because it's popular? I'm often told as a Christian, you shouldn't just believe it because you want it to be true, you should believe it because there's evidence for it. But in the same way, we need to ask that of the objections to Christianity. Do we believe the objections because they're true, or do we believe them just because they're popular? I think also it doesn't really work in reality. If we say that all religions are the same, if you look at the different religions, you'll see that on the very fundamental questions about God, about the way to God, about what God is like, they're saying very fundamentally different things. We can't even say all religions lead to God, because not all religions say that God exists. And so you end up having to be so vague in your descriptions of this force or this reality that the descriptions become meaningless. You strip it of any kind of real sense of meaning. And I think another thing is that actually if we're to say all religions are the same, all religions lead to God because we want to be seen to be tolerant, we have to remember actually all ideas about religion are in one sense exclusive. Amy or Ewing puts it really helpfully when she says there are really 4 ideas about religion. You can say they're all right, some of them are right, one of them is right, or none of them are right. And we would say, well, it's very arrogant to say that one of them is right. But actually, she points out, if you say that all religions are right, then you're disagreeing with the people who say that some of them, one of them, and none of them are right. And if you say that some of them are right, you're disagreeing with the people that say all one and none, and so on. Whatever your opinion about religion, you're ultimately going to have to say someone in the world is wrong. I can't agree with everyone all of the time. It's just impossible. So it's better to ask the question, okay, given that everyone can't be right at the same time, is there any reason, or are there any reasons for thinking that a religious belief or a conviction is true? And that's where I want to start to look actually at the evidence of Christianity.
Yep, swap.
Cool. So, that guy, Michael Ots, gives it a bit simpler than, clearer, I think, than I would. Now, we've only got about 3 more minutes left on Insta, so we will reboot, but we'll sort of, we won't have too much more to share if you guys want to jump back on. But I really like what he had to share. Basically, that sometimes it seems in our day and age, it's really easy to be like, I believe all religions lead to God, and there's no one right path. But to say that is really just as truth-claiming and just as one-directional as to say that there is only one way to God. So there's no, I don't feel, and when you really think about it, I think there's really hard evidence to prove that all religions basically believe the same thing, or all religions lead to God. So, so that's a summary. That's a view called pluralism that you might hear about a little bit as you continue through life. Pluralism in a spiritual sense. David Paul said, I think the passion of JW is good. Not sure I agree with the approach. JW seem to have an agenda to join our religion. A Christian's agenda should be, I'll love you unconditionally even if you don't believe my beliefs. Yeah, that's right. So if you're doing things just because it's forced, then it's wrong. It's wrong in any relationship. If it is just out of... Was that a cutout, was it? No, cool.
We'll probably say our goodbyes to Instagram.
Yeah.
And then if you're on Instagram, then join back on as
That's
soon
right.
as you possibly can.
That's right. Feel free to jump back on. That's basically everything we want to sort of share. But feel free to jump back on. Feel free to give us any more thoughts that you guys have. All right, but we're still rolling for YouTube, eh? So
Yeah,
Esther's still
on
there,
YouTube.
Matt's still there.
Josh is still there.
Josh. Georgie Miller. Bengston. Georgie's on both.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about commitment. Hey, Dan, do you have any tats? All right, that's a question for Instagram. So we'll see as people jump back on. Oops. I'll see if I can bring my own Insta back up.
Yep, nearly. And...
All right, sorting out. Thanks for bearing with us, YouTube crew.
Okay.
Good to have you guys here.
Should have Instagram back now.
All right, Insta should be back on.
Nearly.
Nearly.
Waiting.
Waiting.
Waiting. Come on.
YouTube crew.
Yep, there we go.
Oh,
Welcome back, Instagram.
Welcome back, Instagram. So we had a question, do I have any tats? The answer is no, not yet. I've put a fair bit of thought into this. And what I would get and stuff like that, but I'm yet to commit. I'm yet to commit to get an ink anywhere in my body. So I have been thought at times that I had. Caitlin Byrne last week brought that up. She once thought I had a taco tattooed on my leg because I was wearing briefs that had tacos on them and I was running around playing fresh, and yeah, taco would be pretty high on my list of things if I was to get them tattooed on. It's one of my great loves. But no, I don't have any tats, mate. Tattoos look cool on other people. Yeah, I don't have a great canvas. Is that what you're trying to say, Jeremy? There's a lack of canvas. I couldn't get anything too big. There's a guy who used to play for the West Tigers who has an epic tattoo on his back of Jesus cross and stuff. If I can get a photo of that, I'll post that up. If I could get a tattoo, I'd get that. It'd be pretty cool. So no, don't have any tats. Leighton joined. Does that mean the other one's finished? Welcome, Leighton. What were we going to discuss before? So on our Instagram, at the moment there's a story there that says basically for you youthies, let us know whether you like youth group over Instagram or whether you like youth group over Zoom. So we tried Zoom on Friday night. It was good to have those of you along who were there. Let us know. If you like both, let us know. But we just want to make sure you guys are getting a good range of stuff, and we liked seeing your faces on Friday night, but yeah. Let us know. Let us know whether Zoom or Instagram was your preferred means of youth group on a Friday night. Cool thing, the government's outlined some sort of plan for us to get back to normality, to kick these cameras and stuff away, and so we plan to get back to normality hopefully by term 3 would be fantastic. We've just got to see. Got to see how it all pans out, see what happens, but yeah.
Yeah. Just looking here, people seem to prefer Zoom pretty strong.
Zoom, yeah, we got Zoom from Sophie.
I looked at the results last night on that thing. You had like 80-something% saying Zoom.
Yeah. Zoom it is, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good to know. Good to know. So big shout out to Andrew Rodder there for getting that baby rolling. And yeah, we'd like to get more and more feedback on what you guys are enjoying and stuff about youth group.
Yeah. All our YouTube crew is saying Zoom.
Yeah. I feel like that's rigged though because they're already not on Instagram. Yeah. But we also have Zoom on Instagram, so that's kind of defining.
Yeah. Georgie says here, yay! I liked seeing your faces and being able to talk to everyone.
It's good. I feel like it doesn't matter whether we're on Instagram or Zoom, but I feel like I get picked on for being old and I get mocked. So I don't know. The sooner it gets back to the other stuff and I just get teased for being old face to face in person will be much nicer rather than over technology. And I get in trouble for talking too loud and stuff on technology at home. I think Mills just prefers it when I actually just leave. Thanks for sharing, Sophie, about that stuff, about your baptism. Yeah. Cool. Next week, we are delving into the realm of how we go about loving our friends and our family, particularly when we maybe clash with them or we disagree with them about stuff. So pretty cool follow-up, I think, from the last 2 weeks. We've had chats about how Christians and the LGBTQ community should relate to each other. Today's been basically chats about, I guess, how we relate with different religions and how we particularly relate with other Christians. And so next week gets real personal, is how do we relate with, I guess, people that we disagree with when they're our family or they're our good friends, and how does that manage and how does that work? And so really appreciate those questions. If you guys have more questions, feel free to keep flicking them to us. But looking forward to delving in that with Paul next Sunday. So I think Siobhan and Amy, particularly, those questions were from you guys. So really looking forward to delving into those. And that's when it gets really hard. When it's not just chatting about other churches or other people that are out there in our communities or things like that, but when it's chatting about people we know and love, it's really hard. And I think a theme that's coming through is that you guys, in our day and age, it seems to be this thing that if you disagree with someone, you hate them, or you disagree with them, you don't like them. And Paul and Kel touched on that really well last week, that just because we disagree doesn't mean we hate each other. Me and Thomas disagree on things. He enjoys collared button-up shirts. I could probably think of nothing worse to wear on a standard day than a collared button-up shirt. And yet, we don't hate each other. I don't hate him anyway. That's an awkward silence. Yeah. And same with today. Just because people go to a church with a different sign at the front and maybe have a different take on a certain part of the Bible or whatever, doesn't mean we hate. We agree to disagree. And next week, we delve into that more. Next week, it will be me and Chappie. That's the plan. That's the plan. So tune in for that. Does that mean, Sophie, you wouldn't have tuned in if it was just me next week? I'm going to read through those lines. Got anything to add from YouTube in that, Paul? Paul?
Sure.
Chappie?
Not a whole lot. Matthew's correcting me on my spelling. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah. Not much.
And Thomas, Spider's name, what one takes the cut for you?
Yeah, I don't know. Winston's good, I reckon.
I feel like he's a Winston.
Yeah.
Maybe I jumped in too early now. I can shut off the other ones, but Jeffrey was. I didn't think Jeffrey was too bad from the Rodders either.
I don't know if there's any last-minute name ideas.
Yeah, but I'm rolling with Winston. So, again, huge shout out to Thomas. Thank you for jumping in front of the camera this week, helping us with technology such as whiteboards, and a huge thanks to JopDop, who wasn't able to tune in today, but he did a fantastic job on our technology side of things. So good. Does he have to give you permission to cut to the? Okay. So if you don't know, Thomas was trying to get James onto the camera then, but James is the one in charge of whether he gets on the camera. So good scenes. Thanks, Sophie. Thank you, Sophie. Makes me feel good about myself. Cool. Nothing else to say. So peace out. Continue to love your brothers and sisters in Christ. Love those from any other one else in the community around you. Continue to love Jesus because he is the only way to God. And apart from that, enjoy your Mother's Day. Love on them. And done.